The massive alien ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human territory. Its hull gleamed silver against the black void, covered in strange symbols that pulsed with blue light. Inside the ship, Ambassador Veltar studied the reports about this new species called humans. The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles in what passed for amusement among his kind. According to the Galactic Concordate's files, humans were barely worth notice. They had only been in space for 200 years. Their fastest ships used simple chemical rockets that crawled between planets like slow insects. Their weapons shot metal bullets like ancient primitives. Class 2 developing species. Veltar read aloud to his aide. Limited technology. No threat assessment required. His aide, another member of the Velkari race, bobbed his head in agreement. Shall we simply demand their surrender, Ambassador? Veltar waved a clawed hand dismissively. No need to waste energy on threats. These humans will be grateful for our protection. We will offer them the standard tributary arrangement. They mine resources for us and we keep them safe from real dangers in the galaxy. On Earth, Admiral Dong Ho received the alien message in his office at Seoul Command Center. The message was polite but carried an undertone that made his jaw tighten. The aliens wanted to meet and discuss mutual benefits for both species. Dong Ho was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. He read the message 3 times before calling his staff. They think we're weak, he said to Captain Yuna as she entered his office. Yuna was younger, with quick movements and an alert expression that missed nothing. Sir? Yuna asked. Read this. Dong Ho handed her the alien message. Notice how they talk about bringing us into the galactic community and protecting us from hostile forces. They're not asking for an alliance. They're offering to be our masters. Yuna finished reading and nodded slowly. What are your orders, sir? Set up a meeting at Seoul Orbital Station. Make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. The old equipment? Everything from the museum. And Yuna? Dong Ho smiled coldly. Be sure to act properly impressed by their superior technology. 3 days later, Veltar's shuttle docked with the human space station. As he walked through the corridors, he noted the crude metal walls and simple lighting systems. Human soldiers stood at attention, carrying what looked like modified hunting rifles. Their uniforms were basic cloth with simple rank insignia. How charmingly primitive, Veltar thought to himself. Captain Yuna met him at the docking bay. She saluted in the human military fashion, which Veltar found amusing. These creatures still used physical gestures like ancient barbarians. Welcome to Seoul Station, Ambassador Veltar, Yuna said in accented galactic standard. Admiral Dong Ho is waiting to meet you. Veltar noticed how the humans' language skills were adequate but not sophisticated, another sign of their limited development. As they walked, he observed the station systems. The computers used simple visual displays instead of direct neural interfaces. The gravity generators hummed loudly, showing their inefficient design. In the conference room, Admiral Dong Ho stood to greet his guest. The human leader was tall for his species but still shorter than Veltar's 2-meter height. Dong Ho bowed slightly, which Veltar interpreted as submission. Admiral Dong Ho, Veltar said, his voice carrying the authority of a superior being addressing a lesser creature. I bring greetings from the Galactic Concordate. We are honored by your visit, Dong Ho replied. Please, tell us about this concordate. For the next hour, Veltar explained the galaxy's political structure. The Concordate controlled over 3,000 star systems. They maintained peace through strength and wise guidance of younger species. Humans could join this great civilization, but they must understand their place. Your species shows promise, Veltar said, his tone like an adult praising a clever child. With proper guidance, humans might advance significantly. Yuna leaned forward with what appeared to be eager interest. What kind of guidance, Ambassador? Technical assistance, for example. Your current propulsion systems are quite quaint. We might share some basic improvements. In return, we would expect certain commitments from humanity. What commitments? Dong Ho asked. Veltar spread his forearms in a gesture meant to seem generous. Nothing too demanding. Resource extraction rights on your outer planets. some manufacturing quotas for basic goods, a small tribute to help maintain galactic peace, standard arrangements for developing species. Dong-ho and Yuna exchanged glances. Veltar interpreted this as humans realizing how fortunate they were to receive such generous terms. "This is very interesting," Dong-ho said carefully. "Perhaps you would like to tour some of our facilities while we consider your offer?" "An excellent idea," Veltar agreed. "It would be useful to see more of human capabilities before finalizing the tributary agreement." The next day, Yuna guided Veltar through the station's military section. She showed him their training facilities where human soldiers practiced with projectile weapons. The aliens watched humans run obstacle courses and perform basic combat drills. "Your warriors train diligently," Veltar observed, "though their weapons seem quite limited." "We make do with what we have," Yuna replied modestly. "We would be grateful to learn from more advanced species like yours." They visited the engineering section, where humans worked on what appeared to be simple fusion reactors. The technology was functional but crude, at least 1,000 years behind concordate standards. "Impressive work for your technological level," Veltar said. "With concordate guidance, you might achieve real efficiency in perhaps 500 years. "That long?" Yuna asked with apparent disappointment. "These things take time," Veltar replied kindly. "Evolution cannot be rushed." In the command center, human officers monitored their tiny fleet through basic sensor displays. Veltar counted 12 ships total, hardly enough to defend a single planet against serious threats. "Your fleet seems small," he commented. "We're a young species," Dong-ho explained. "Building ships is expensive and slow with our current technology." Indeed. The Concordate maintains over 50,000 vessels. You need not worry about defense once you join us. That evening, Veltar transmitted his initial report to Concordat headquarters. Human species assessment confirms file accuracy. Technology primitive, military negligible, leadership appears compliant. Recommends standard tributary arrangement with minimal oversight required. No threat potential detected. Meanwhile, in a secure section of the station that Veltar had not seen, Admiral Dong-ho met with his senior staff. The room was filled with advanced holographic displays showing real-time data from across human space. "How long do we maintain the charade?" asked Colonel Taemin, the station's security chief. "Until we learn everything we need to know about them," Dong-ho replied. "Their technology, their military doctrine, their weaknesses." "The ambassador is quite talkative," Yuna reported. "He's already shared details about their fleet compositions and defense strategies. He seems to think we're too primitive to understand the implications." Engineer Boram looked up from her analysis station. "I've been scanning his ship continuously. Their shields operate on predictable harmonics. Their weapons use standard plasma acceleration. Nothing we haven't seen before." Intelligence Officer Seok Jin smiled grimly. "He's scheduled to visit Earth tomorrow. I've prepared some very interesting sights for him to see. Remember," Dong-ho warned his team, "we must appear exactly as primitive as he expects. Let his arrogance blind him to what we really are." As the night cycle began on the station, Veltar settled into his quarters, satisfied with the day's progress. These humans would make useful servants. They were eager to please and clearly impressed by superior beings like himself. The Concordate would gain another tributary species with minimal effort. He had no idea that every word he spoke was being recorded and analyzed. He didn't know that human scientists were dissecting every aspect of his technology. Most importantly, he had no concept that he was not dealing with a primitive species seeking protection, but with predators who had learned patience. 3 days later, Veltar's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere toward the Korean peninsula. From his window, he could see the planet's surface covered in primitive cities with simple buildings and crude transportation networks. No floating cities, no force field domes, no anti-gravity highways. Just basic structures that any civilized species would have abandoned millennia ago. "Quaint," he murmured to his aide as they landed at what humans called Seoul International Spaceport. The facility was clearly their best attempt at modern construction, but it looked like something from the Concordate's archaeological museums. Diplomat Hae Won waited at the landing pad with a small honor guard. She was a middle-aged woman with careful eyes and a diplomatic smile that never quite reached those eyes. Beside her stood Colonel Tai Min, a military man whose bearing suggested competence despite his primitive equipment. Ambassador Veltar, Haywan said, bowing in the human fashion. Welcome to Earth. Thank you for your hospitality, Veltar replied, noting how the human's translator device was a bulky external unit rather than a neural implant. So primitive. As they traveled toward the city center, Veltar observed Seoul through the windows of their ground-based vehicle. Millions of humans moved through streets using wheeled transportation and their own legs. No personal flight devices, no teleportation grids, no automated transit systems. They were like insects crawling across the surface of their world. Your population density is quite high, Veltar commented. Over 50 million in the greater Seoul area, Colonel Taemin replied proudly. Veltar was amused by their pride in such primitive arrangements. The smallest Concordat city housed 1 billion beings in perfect comfort using advanced spacefolding technology. These humans crowded together in simple buildings like their ancient ancestors. The first stop was the Korean National Museum, which humans claimed showcased their technological achievements. Veltar walked through displays of their early space missions, their first fusion reactors, their primitive computers. Everything confirmed his assessment of their limited development. Your progress in the past century has been remarkable, he said diplomatically. We've worked hard to advance, Haywan replied, but we know we have much to learn from elder species like yours. That afternoon, they visited what humans called the Advanced Technology Institute. Veltar was shown laboratories, where scientists worked on improving their basic fusion designs and developing more efficient chemical rockets. The researchers seemed eager to share their work, asking questions about Concordat technology with the enthusiasm of students meeting a master. Dr. Boram, the facility's lead engineer, showed him their latest prototype engine. We've managed to increase fuel efficiency by 12%, she said proudly. Veltar examined the device with professional interest. It was well constructed for their technological level, but the improvements she described would be laughable to any first-year Concordat engineering student. Impressive work, he said kindly. With proper guidance, your species might develop truly efficient propulsion within a few centuries. That would be wonderful, Boram replied, her eyes bright with apparent hope. In the evening, they attended a formal dinner with Earth's leadership. Veltar found himself the center of attention as government officials and military leaders asked him questions about galactic civilization. They seemed genuinely amazed by his descriptions of Concordat technology and power. Intelligence officer. Seokjin was particularly curious about military matters. How does the Concordat maintain peace across so many systems, he asked. Veltar was happy to explain. These humans seemed too primitive to pose any threat, so there was no harm in educating them about proper galactic order. We maintain 15 major fleet bases, he said, gesturing with his multiple arms. Each controls roughly 200 systems. Our warships use quantum cascade weapons that can destroy a planet from orbit. Our shields can deflect any known weapon system. The humans listened with expressions of awe and wonder. Several took notes on primitive paper tablets, as if recording wisdom from a superior being. Your ships must be very large, Colonel Taemin observed. Our standard battleships are 5 kilometers long, Veltar replied. My diplomatic vessel would be considered a small courier by our standards. He noticed the humans exchanging glances of amazement. Clearly, they were overwhelmed by the scale of true galactic power. Captain Yuna, who had joined them from the orbital station, asked about Concordat military doctrine. How do your fleets coordinate across such vast distances? Veltar found her interest charming in its innocence. We use quantum entanglement networks for instantaneous communication. Our battle computers process millions of scenarios per second. Our automated systems can respond to threats faster than any biological mind. Fascinating, Yuna murmured, making notes. And what about ground forces? Robotic armies, naturally. We eliminated the inefficiency of biological soldiers long ago. Our war machines are perfectly logical and completely fearless. The dinner conversation continued late into the night, with Veltar enjoying his role as teacher to these eager students. By the time they parted, he felt confident that Earth's leaders understood both the benefits of joining the Concordat and the futility of any resistance. The next morning brought a visit to what humans proudly called their Global Defense Academy. Veltar expected to see primitive military training, and he was not disappointed. Young humans practiced with projectile weapons, studied basic tactics on paper maps, and performed physical exercises that would have been obsolete on Concordat worlds for thousands of years. What he failed to notice was the perfection of their movements. When the cadets performed drill exercises, every step was precisely placed, every turn perfectly timed. Their weapons handling showed muscle memory that suggested far more practice than their records indicated. Their eyes held a coldness that seemed at odds with their primitive equipment. "Your students are quite disciplined," Veltar commented to the academy commandant. "We believe in thorough training," the officer replied. "Even with simple tools, proper technique makes a difference." During a demonstration combat exercise, Veltar watched human soldiers engage in mock battles using projectile weapons and conventional explosives. What impressed him was not their technology, which remained laughably primitive, but their tactical thinking. They adapted quickly to changing situations, used terrain cleverly, and showed remarkable coordination despite their lack of advanced communication systems. They fight well for primitives, he thought. With proper Concordat weapons and training, they might actually become useful soldiers. After the demonstration, Captain Yuna approached him with more questions. Her curiosity about Concordat military capabilities seemed insatiable, and Veltar was happy to satisfy her thirst for knowledge. "Your automated systems sound very efficient," she said. "But what happens if enemies develop countermeasures?" Veltar clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Impossible. Our systems are based on pure logic. They cannot be deceived or confused like biological minds." "I see," Yuna replied, making another note. "And your robotic soldiers, do they ever malfunction?" "Rarely. And when they do, we simply replace them. No emotional trauma, no fear, no hesitation. Pure efficiency." As they talked, Veltar felt a growing fondness for this human female. She was clearly intelligent for her species, and her questions showed a genuine desire to learn. Under Concordat guidance, she might even achieve minor positions of responsibility. That evening, as Veltar prepared his second report to Concordat headquarters, he felt satisfied with his mission's progress. Earth's leaders seemed eager to accept tributary status. Their military was disciplined but hopelessly outmatched. Their technology showed promise but remained centuries behind Concordat standards. "Human species continues to exceed expectations for cooperation," he dictated. "Leadership appears genuinely grateful for Concordat interest. Military shows discipline but lacks any capability to threaten Concordat forces. Recommend proceeding with standard tributary arrangements. Suggest minimal garrison force required for oversight." Meanwhile, in a secure bunker 50 kilometers beneath Seoul, Admiral Dong Ho reviewed the intelligence gathered during Veltar's visit. Around him, holographic displays showed real-time analysis of the alien ambassador's ship, his technology, and most importantly, his words. "He's told us everything we need to know about their fleet deployments," reported Intelligence Officer Seok Jin. 15 major bases, standard patrol patterns, communication protocols. Their confidence has made them careless." Engineer Bo Ram smiled grimly. "His ship's quantum signatures have been mapped completely. We can track every vessel using similar technology. They'll never surprise us." "What about their military doctrine?" asked Colonel Taemin. Captain Yu Na pulled up her notes from the conversations, completely dependent on automation and logical responses. They've eliminated human intuition and creativity from their military thinking. They fight like computers, predictable and inflexible. Admiral Dong Ho nodded slowly. "And their assessment of our capabilities?" "Exactly what we wanted," Yuna replied. He thinks we're primitive, grateful, and harmless. He has no idea what he's really dealing with. Dr. Sumin, the facility's strategic analyst, looked up from her displays. 2 weeks had passed since Veltar's return to his diplomatic vessel. He floated in his quarters, reviewing the preliminary terms for Earth's tributary status, when an urgent message arrived from Admiral Dong Ho. The human leader requested a demonstration of Earth's military capabilities before finalizing any agreements. Veltar's mandibles clicked with amusement. The primitive humans wanted to show off their laughable weapons before submitting to concordant rule. How charmingly naive. Perhaps this demonstration would help them understand the vast gap between their simple technology and true galactic military power. Very well, he transmitted back to Earth. We shall observe your military exercises. Perhaps afterward, you will better appreciate the protection the Concordat offers. The meeting was arranged for the outer edge of the Sol system, near Jupiter's moons. Veltar brought 3 Concordat escort vessels, not his most powerful ships, but more than sufficient to handle any human aggression should these primitives foolishly attempt something hostile. As Veltar's small fleet approached the designated coordinates, he studied the sensor readings. Only one human vessel waited for them, a modest ship that looked like an upgraded cargo hauler. It was perhaps 200 meters long, clearly constructed with their primitive materials and basic energy systems, and this is what they call a demonstration of military might? Veltar's aide asked, examining the same readings. Apparently so, Veltar replied. Perhaps we should feel honored that they sent their flagship. Commander Hyun Soo stood on the bridge of the human vessel Silent Thunder, watching the alien ships approach on his tactical display. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency at stations that appeared deceptively simple. All systems ready, Commander, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant So Young. Cloaking systems? Standing by, sir. Projection arrays? Online. And calibrated, sir. ECM suite? Ready to deploy on your order, sir. Hyun-Soo nodded and opened a communication channel to the Concordat flagship. Ambassador Veltar, this is Commander Hyun-Soo of the Earth defense vessel Silent Thunder. We are ready to begin the demonstration whenever you wish. Veltar's image appeared on the communication screen, a towering insectoid figure with 4 arms and multifaceted eyes that reflected his species' ancient arrogance. Commander, we are ready to observe your capabilities. Please proceed with your display. Thank you, Ambassador. We'll begin with basic maneuvers. What happened next defied every assumption Veltar had made about human technology. The human ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not departed, vanished. Veltar's sensors showed empty space where the vessel had been moments before. His tactical systems registered no energy discharge, no quantum signature, no trace of the ship's existence. Where did it go? Veltar demanded of his sensor operator. Unknown, sir. All scanning systems show negative contact. That's impossible. Ships don't simply disappear. The sensor operator checked his instruments again. Sir, according to our readings, there never was a ship at those coordinates. Veltar stared at the empty space, his multiple arms twitching with agitation. The Concordat had cloaking technology, of course, but nothing that could completely fool their advanced sensor arrays. This was something else entirely. Silent Thunder to Concordat vessels, came Commander Hyun-Soo's voice over the communication channel. How are you enjoying the demonstration so far? Where are you? Veltar demanded. We're right here, Ambassador. Suddenly, the human ship reappeared, not where it had vanished, but directly behind Veltar's flagship, close enough that collision alarms screamed throughout the Concordat bridge. Then, impossibly, it appeared in 2 more locations simultaneously, flanking the other escort vessels. Veltar's compound eyes studied his tactical display in growing disbelief. 3 identical human ships surrounded his formation, each one reading as completely solid and real on his sensors. Which one is real? His tactical officer asked. Before Veltar could respond, all 3 human ships opened fire. The weapons that lanced out were not the primitive kinetic projectiles or simple energy. beams Veltar had expected. Instead, focused streams of antimatter tore through space, striking the concordate shields with enough force to make the massive alien vessels shudder. Veltar watched in horror as his shields, defensive systems that had never failed against any known weapon, fluctuated and sparked under the human assault. The energy readings were impossible. These weapons shouldn't exist in the hands of a primitive species. Shields at 60%, his tactical officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. Return fire, Veltar ordered. The concordate vessels unleashed their own weapons. Plasma, cannons that could melt mountains, particle beams that could slice through starship hulls like hot knives through ice. The alien weapons struck their targets with devastating accuracy and passed harmlessly through 2 of the human ships. Holographic projections, Veltar realized with growing dread. But which one is real? His answer came as the real silent thunder appeared directly above his flagship, close enough that its hull scraped the concordate ship's upper sensors. The human vessel's weapons fired point-blank into his ship's superstructure, causing explosions that sent tremors through the entire vessel. Shields failing, the tactical officer reported. Hull breaches on decks 12 through 15. Impossible, Veltar whispered. We have the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Commander Hyunsu's voice came over the communication channel again, calm and professional. Ambassador, this concludes the space combat demonstration. Would you like to see our ground forces in action? Before Veltar could respond, his sensors detected new contacts, dozens of them emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. Human vessels of various sizes surrounded the concordate formation, all of them armed and targeting the alien ships. Where did they come from? Veltar demanded. Sir, his sensor operator said, his voice shaking. They were there the entire time. Our systems were being fed false data. Veltar realized with growing horror that he was not witnessing a demonstration of human military capabilities. He was experiencing them firsthand. These primitives had been toying with his forces, showing him just enough of their true abilities to shatter every assumption he'd made about them. Let me show you something else, Commander Hyunsu continued. Lieutenant So Young, deploy. The mechs. On Veltar's tactical display, new contacts appeared. Small, fast-moving objects launching from the human ships. As they approached the concordate vessels, Veltar realized they were mechanical suits, each one containing a single human pilot. The mechs moved through space with impossible grace, dodging concordate defensive fire and striking precise targets. On the alien ships, their weapons were small but incredibly accurate, finding weak points in the alien vessel's armor and exploiting them with surgical precision. Major So Young piloted her mech Iron Phoenix through the battle space, her neural interface linking her directly to the machine's systems. Around her, displays showed the tactical situation in perfect clarity. The concordate ships were powerful but slow, their responses predictable and mechanical. All units, execute Pattern 7, she commanded her squadron. The human mechs moved in perfect coordination, each pilot acting on instinct while their AI systems calculated optimal attack vectors. They struck like a school of predatory fish, hitting targets and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Veltar watched his escort vessels suffer damage from weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate their defenses. His tactical systems showed him the impossible, human pilots reacting faster than his automated defense systems could track. How are they moving like that? He asked his tactical officer. Sir, they appear to be combining artificial intelligence with organic intuition. Our systems can't predict their movements because they're not following logical patterns. That's impossible. Biological entities can't react faster than quantum computers. Apparently they can, sir. As the battle continued, Veltar began to understand the terrifying truth. The humans weren't just more advanced than they appeared. They had developed entirely different approaches to warfare. Where the Concordat relied on overwhelming force and logical tactics, humans used creativity, adaptability, and intuition. Ambassador, Commander Hyunsu's voice interrupted his thoughts. I believe you've seen enough of our capabilities. Shall we end this demonstration? End it? Veltar asked weakly. Of course. unless you'd prefer to see our heavy weapon systems? The thought of human heavy weapons terrified Veltar more than he cared to admit. If their light systems could damage Concordat vessels, what could their serious military equipment accomplish? No, he said quickly. The demonstration has been adequate. Excellent. All units, return to base positions. The human ships began withdrawing, their movements coordinated and professional. As they departed, Veltar noticed something that chilled him to his core. Not one of the alien vessels had actually been destroyed. The humans had demonstrated their ability to defeat Concordat forces while holding back their true destructive power. As the last human mech disappeared into its carrier ship, Commander Hyun-Soo opened one final communication channel. Ambassador, Veltar, I hope this demonstration has been educational. We look forward to continuing our negotiations as equals, rather than as primitives seeking your protection. Sir, based on everything we've learned, I can confirm our initial assessment. Their ambassador Veltar spent his final day on Earth touring what humans proudly called their most advanced military installation. The Osan Air Base looked exactly like what he expected from a primitive species. Simple concrete runways, basic metal hangars, and aircraft that used crude jet engines instead of proper anti-grav systems. The base commander, General Kyung-ho, walked him through the facility. With obvious pride, human pilots showed off their atmospheric fighters, which Veltar found quaintly archaic. The weapons were kinetic projectiles and simple explosives, the kind of armaments that civilized species had abandoned when they discovered energy-based combat systems. These are our most advanced interceptors, General Kyung-ho said, gesturing toward a line of sleek aircraft. Veltar examined the machines with polite interest. They were well designed for their technological level, but they would be helpless against even the smallest Concordat patrol craft. Impressive engineering, he said diplomatically. As the day ended, Veltar felt confident in his assessment. Earth was ripe for easy integration into the Concordat as a tributary world. The humans seemed not only primitive, but genuinely eager for alien guidance. Tomorrow he would return to space and begin formal negotiations. What Veltar did not know was that the real military installation lay 800 meters below his feet. Deep beneath the mountains surrounding Seoul, Admiral Dong-ho stood in a command center that would have impressed even Concordat engineers. Holographic displays filled a cavern carved from solid rock, showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Officers worked at stations that hummed with quiet power, their technology hidden behind simple interfaces. Status report, Dong-ho ordered. As he entered the underground facility, General Min-ho, Supreme Commander of Earth's actual military forces, stepped forward. He was a compact man with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen things Veltar could not imagine. All Shadow Fleets report ready status, sir. Deep space installations are online. Intelligence networks are active. How long have we been watching them? Dong-ho asked. 47 years, sir, replied Colonel Jae-won, head of Deep Intelligence. Ever since our first contact with Concordat scout ships near Alpha Centauri, they never detected our surveillance drones. Dr. Yoon-ji, the facility's chief scientist, approached with a data pad. She was a small woman whose quiet manner concealed one of the most brilliant minds in human space. Sir, we've completed our analysis of Ambassador Veltar's biology and technology. And his species has become completely dependent on their advanced systems. Physically, they're weaker than baseline humans. Mentally, they think in rigid patterns. They've had peace so long they've forgotten how to adapt to unexpected threats. Dong-ho nodded and moved to the main display, which showed a three-dimensional map of known space. Red markers indicated Concordat territories, while blue ones marked the true extent of human expansion. Show me our current positions, he ordered. Triku. Display changed, revealing the reality that Veltar could never have imagined. Human settlements stretched across hundreds of star systems, hidden from alien sensors by advanced stealth technology. Deep space stations orbited dead worlds, their weapons pointed at Concordat trade routes. Observation posts monitored alien fleet movements from within asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. Captain Ji-hoon of the Shadow Fleet stepped up to the display. He was tall and lean, with the pale complexion of someone who spent his life in space. Sir, we have assets positioned within 50 light-years of every major Concordate base. Our stealth ships have been mapping their defenses for decades. Their capabilities? Dong-ho asked. Formidable in open battle, but predictable, Ji-hoon replied. They rely on overwhelming firepower and defensive positions. They haven't fought a real war in over 2,000 years. Their tactics are textbook perfect, but completely inflexible. Dr. Min-soo, head of the Weapons Research Division, joined the group around the display. She was a middle-aged woman whose gentle appearance belied her role as creator of humanity's most devastating weapons systems. Our analysis of their technology shows significant vulnerabilities, she reported. Their quantum shields operate on fixed frequencies. Their computer systems use standardized protocols. Their weapon systems have built-in safety limiters that prevent friendly fire. Meaning? Dong-ho prompted. Meaning we can turn their own systems against them, sir. Their ships are more advanced than ours individually, but they're not prepared for asymmetric warfare. Dong-ho studied the display, watching as more information updated in real time. Human intelligence assets throughout Concordate space were feeding data back to Earth, creating a picture of alien civilization that was both impressive and vulnerable. What about their assessment of us? He asked. Intelligence Director Hei-jin smiled coldly. She had spent her career perfecting the art of deception, and the past week had been her masterpiece. Ambassador Veltar believes exactly what we want him to believe. He thinks we're primitive, grateful, and harmless. His reports to Concordate headquarters describe us as ideal tributary candidates. He has no idea about our real capabilities? None whatsoever, sir. As far as he knows, our fastest ships are chemical rockets. Our best weapons fire metal bullets, and our largest military installation is the museum pieces he saw at Osan Air Base. Dr. Yoon-ji pulled up another display showing comparative technology assessments. Sir, while their individual systems are more advanced than our public technology, our actual military capabilities exceed theirs in several key areas. Explain. Their computers think logically but cannot improvise. Our AI systems incorporate human creativity and intuition. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. Our systems are designed for adaptability. Most importantly, their entire military doctrine assumes enemies will fight by the same rules they do. General Minho gestured toward another section of the command center, where tactical specialists worked on battle simulations. We've been wargaming against Concordate forces for 40 years, sir. Every possible scenario, every known tactic, every documented weakness. Commander Hyun-soo of the Strategic Planning Division approached with his team's latest analysis. He was a young officer whose brilliant mind had earned rapid promotion despite his age. Sir, based on current intelligence, we estimate a 93% probability of victory in direct conflict, assuming we maintain strategic surprise. And if they discover our true capabilities before we're ready? 67%. Sir, still favorable but with much higher casualties. Dong-ho walked to the center of the command center, where a holographic representation of Earth rotated slowly. To alien eyes, it would appear to be a simple planet with primitive technology and a small harmless population. The reality was far different. "Show me the home defense grid," he ordered. The hologram changed, revealing Earth's true defensive network. Orbital platforms disguised as communication satellites bristled with weapons that could destroy capital ships. Underground installations. On the moon housed missile systems capable of reaching any point in the solar system. Asteroid mining stations concealed Fortress-class weapons platforms. Phase 2 facilities? Dong-ho asked. New markers appeared throughout the solar system. Hidden shipyards in the outer asteroid belt where humanity's true fleet was being constructed. Research stations in the Kuiper belt where new weapons were being tested. Deep space installations that could support prolonged military operations, light years from Earth. Phase 3. The display expanded to show human presence beyond the solar system. Secret colonies on worlds the Concordate had never explored. Mobile bases hidden in interstellar space. Communication networks that spanned hundreds of light years, without using any technology the aliens could detect. Impressive, Dong-Ho said, quietly. And they suspect none of this? Their own arrogance blinds them, sir, replied Dr. Su-Jin, the facility's xenopsychology expert. They cannot imagine that a species they consider primitive could deceive them so completely. It's psychologically impossible for them to accept that we might be more advanced than we appear. How long before they expect our answer to their tributary offer? Dong-Ho asked. 1 month, sir, Diplomat Haiwan replied via secure communication from the surface. Ambassador Veltar expects us to be grateful for the opportunity to serve the mighty Concordat. Dong-Ho smiled grimly. After 40 years of preparation, humanity was finally ready to reveal itself to the galaxy, but not in the way the Concordat expected. Begin Phase 4 preparations, he ordered. All commanders are to report to their final positions within 2 weeks. Deep space assets are to begin active reconnaissance of Concordat fleet movements. Intelligence networks are authorized to move to full operational status. Sir, General Minho said, once we begin Phase 4, there's no going back. They'll eventually detect our activities. I know, Dong-Ho replied, but we've learned everything we need to learn. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, their fleet positions, and their strategic doctrine. Most importantly, we know they consider us beneath notice. He turned to address the entire command center. For 40 years, we've hidden our true nature from these aliens. We've let them believe we're primitive because it served our purposes. Now the time for deception is almost over. The communication ended, leaving Veltar alone with his ambassador. Veltar's compound eyes reflected the flickering lights of his damaged bridge as he waited for Admiral Dong-Ho's response to his emergency request for a meeting. The past 3 days had been the most disturbing of his long career. Every assumption about human primitiveness lay in ruins around him, and he desperately needed answers. The communication came within hours. Admiral Dong-Ho's image appeared on the main screen, his expression unreadable as he studied the visible damage to Veltar's vessel. Ambassador, Dong-Ho said calmly, I understand you wish to discuss the recent demonstration. Would you prefer to meet aboard your ship or ours? Veltar hesitated. His own vessel was faster and better armed, but after witnessing human capabilities, he no longer trusted his advantages. Your ship, Admiral, if you would permit it. Of course, we'll send a shuttle. An hour later, Veltar found himself aboard, a human vessel that looked nothing like the primitive craft he had expected. The corridors were clean and efficient, but more importantly, they hummed with the quiet power of advanced technology. The humans who escorted him moved with military precision that spoke of extensive training and perfect discipline. Admiral Dong-Ho met him in a conference room that could have been found on any advanced Concordat vessel. Holographic displays showed star charts and tactical data, while the walls themselves seemed to contain interactive systems beyond anything Veltar had seen during his surface visits to Earth. Please sit, Dong-Ho said, gesturing to a chair designed to accommodate Veltar's alien anatomy. I believe we have much to discuss. Veltar settled into the chair, his forearms folding nervously. Admiral, I must ask directly, who are you people? What are you really? Dong-Ho smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. We are exactly who we have always been, Ambassador. The only thing that has changed is your understanding of us. But your technology, your weapons, your ships, none of this was in our intelligence files. Your intelligence files were wrong, said a new voice. Colonel Daeho entered the conference room, followed by Dr. Sumin, a woman whose gentle appearance contrasted sharply with the cold intelligence in her eyes. Allow me to introduce Colonel Daeho, our Director of Strategic Planning, and Dr. Sumin, our Chief Military Historian. Dong-Ho said, they can help explain how your people's assessment of humanity became so inaccurate. Dr. Sumin activated a holographic display that showed a timeline stretching back centuries. Ambassador, your people first encountered human spacecraft 47 years ago near Alpha Centauri. What you didn't realize was that we were already studying you. The display changed to show grainy images of Concordat vessels. These were our first glimpses of your technology. We learned 2 important things immediately. You were more advanced than us, and you were arrogant. Arrogant? Veltar asked. Colonel. Deho stepped forward. Your scout ships made no attempt to hide their activities. They scanned our outer colonies openly, transmitted information in easily decoded languages, and generally behaved as if they were the only intelligent beings in the galaxy. We realized, Dr. Suman continued, that your technological superiority was matched by a complete inability to conceive of beings who might deceive you, so we decided to become exactly what you expected to see. The holographic display showed Earth as it appeared to concordant sensors, a simple world with primitive technology and a small, harmless population. Then it shifted to show reality, orbital platforms disguised as communication satellites, underground facilities hidden beneath major cities, and fleets of advanced vessels cloaked beyond alien detection. Every piece of technology you observed during your visit was real, Dongho explained. We do have chemical rockets and projectile weapons, we simply didn't show you our more advanced systems. Veltar's mandibles clicked nervously. How advanced? Dr. Suman smiled. Our fastest vessels can cross the galaxy in days rather than months. Our weapons can manipulate matter at the subatomic level. Our defensive systems exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. That's impossible, Veltar protested. Such technology would require millennia of development. It did, Colonel Deho replied. The difference is that humans never stopped fighting. While your people enjoyed 2,000 years of peace within your controlled territories, we continued to wage war against each other, against our environment, and against the challenges of surviving in a hostile universe. The holographic display changed again, showing scenes of human conflict throughout history. Ancient battles with primitive weapons evolved into complex, modern warfare involving space-based platforms and weapons that could reshape continents. War taught us things that peace never could, Dr. Suman explained. How to adapt quickly to new threats, how to think creatively under pressure, how to turn our enemies' strengths into weaknesses. But your people seemed so primitive, Veltar said weakly. Your cities, your transportation, your basic infrastructure, all deliberately maintained to match your expectations, Dongho replied. Why build floating cities when underground installations serve our purposes better? Why use personal flight devices when walking gives us exercise and keeps us physically strong? Why advertise our capabilities when hiding them provides strategic advantage? A new figure entered the conference room. Intelligence Director J1, a compact man whose quiet manner concealed one of the sharpest minds in human space. Ambassador, may I ask what you know about human intelligence operations within concordant territory? Human intelligence operations? Veltar asked, confused. J1 activated another holographic display. For the past 30 years, we have maintained active intelligence networks throughout your space. Agents trained to appear as various alien species have infiltrated your governments, your military installations, and your research facilities. The display showed dozens of concordant worlds, each one marked with indicators showing the extent of human penetration. The scope was staggering. No major concordant installation had escaped human attention. This is impossible, Veltar stammered. Our security systems would detect any infiltration. Your security systems look for technological threats, J1 replied. They don't expect agents who can genetically modify themselves to appear as native species, who use biochemical communication methods instead of electronic ones, and who think in ways your logical security protocols cannot predict. Captain Wanho of Deep Strike Command entered the room, carrying a datapad that made Veltar's blood run cold. The human officer was tall and lean, with the pale complexion of someone who spent most of his time in deep space. Admiral, Wanho said, you requested real-time surveillance of concordant core worlds. Yes, Captain. Show our guest. The holographic display shifted to show a dozen planets, each one a major center of concordant civilization. Around each world, tiny markers indicated the positions of human stealth platforms, weapon systems that had been in place for years, waiting. These are your most heavily defended worlds, Wanho explained to Veltar. Each one is currently targeted by human deep strike platforms. We could eliminate your entire government and military command structure within minutes if we chose to do so. Veltar stared at the display in horror. You're threatening genocide. No, Admiral Dong Ho said firmly. We're demonstrating capability. There's a significant difference. Dr. Sumin pulled up another display, this one showing comparative military assessments. Ambassador, your people have built the most powerful military force in known space. Your ships are larger, your weapons more destructive, your defenses more comprehensive than anything we could match in direct combat. Then why? Because you've forgotten how to fight an intelligent enemy, Colonel Daeho interrupted. Your entire military doctrine assumes enemies will meet you in open battle using conventional tactics. You've automated your responses so completely that you've eliminated the human element, creativity, intuition, and the ability to do the unexpected. Our people, Dr. Sumin continued, have spent 40 years studying every aspect of your military capabilities. We know your standard formations, your response patterns, your communication protocols. We've identified weaknesses in your systems that you don't even know exist. Intelligence Director Jae-won activated one final display. Your quantum cascade weapons are devastatingly powerful, but they operate on fixed frequencies that can be disrupted. Your automated defense systems follow predictable logic patterns that can be exploited. Your robotic soldiers are fearless and efficient, but they cannot adapt when faced with tactics they haven't been programmed to handle. Most importantly, Admiral Dong Ho said, standing to face Veltar directly, your entire civilization has grown complacent. You believe your own propaganda about technological superiority. You've forgotten that intelligence and adaptability can overcome brute force. Veltar sat in stunned silence, absorbing the magnitude of his people's miscalculation. Everything the Concordat believed about their position in the galaxy was based on outdated assumptions about the nature of warfare and the capabilities of other species. What do you want? He asked finally. Respect, Dong Ho replied simply. We want to be treated as equals, not as primitives grateful for your protection. We want trade agreements based on mutual benefit, not tribute extract. Ambassador Veltar stood in his private quarters aboard the human vessel, staring at the message he had been composing for hours. His compound eyes reflected the soft glow of the communication device as he struggled with the most important decision of his career. The message to Concordat High Command was nearly complete, but he could not bring himself to transmit it. The words on the screen would change everything, not just for humanity and the Concordat, but for every civilization in the galaxy. Priority transmission to High Command, the message began. Human species assessment requires complete revision. Previous intelligence reports fundamentally flawed. Humanity possesses advanced military capabilities that rival or exceed Concordat standards. Species has demonstrated ability to conduct deep space operations, advanced cloaking technology, and weapon systems of unknown origin. Recommend immediate ceasefire and diplomatic recognition as equal power. Veltar's clawed fingers hovered over the transmission controls. Once he sent this message, there would be no going back. The Concordat's entire understanding of their place in the galaxy would be shattered. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. Admiral Dong Ho's image appeared on the screen, his expression serious but not hostile. Ambassador, I wanted to speak with you before you return to your ship. May I come in? Veltar gestured his consent, and moments later the human leader entered the quarters. Dong Ho moved with quiet confidence, but Veltar noticed that he came alone and unarmed. A gesture of trust that meant more than any diplomatic protocol. You seem troubled, Dong Ho observed. I am considering the consequences of my next transmission to High Command, Veltar replied honestly. Your revelations about human capabilities will shock my people. Some may counsel immediate military action. Dong Ho nodded slowly. And you're wondering if that would be wise? Admiral, I must ask you directly. If the Concordat chooses war over diplomacy, what will humanity do? The human leader was quiet for a long moment, considering his words carefully. Ambassador, for 40 years we have prepared for that possibility. Not because we wanted war, but because we recognize that peace requires strength. You would fight the entire Concordat? We would defend ourselves and our allies, but more importantly, we would show the galaxy that the age of unopposed expansion by any single power is over. Veltar's mandibles clicked nervously. Meaning? Meaning that other species have been watching our interaction with great interest. The Zephyrians, the Crystalline Collective, the Silicon Communes. All of them have been subjected to the same tributary arrangements we were offered. They know we exist, and they know we successfully resisted Concordat pressure. The implications struck Veltar like a physical blow. You've been in contact with other species? For years, Dongho confirmed. Some have been more willing to share information than others, but all of them understand that humanity represents something new in galactic politics, a power that cannot be easily conquered or controlled. This changes everything, Veltar whispered. Yes, it does. The question is whether the Concordat will adapt to this new reality or try to fight against it. General Chanho entered the room, carrying a datapad that Veltar recognized as containing military intelligence. The Supreme Commander of Human Space Forces was an older man, whose calm demeanor concealed a sharp tactical mind. Admiral, the Ambassador's escort vessels are requesting permission to depart. Should we clear them for return to Concordat space? Of course, General. We're not holding anyone against their will. Veltar looked between the two human officers. You're letting me leave, even knowing that I might recommend war to my superiors? Ambassador, General Chanho replied, we could prevent you from leaving, but that would accomplish nothing. If you don't return to report what you've learned, the Concordat will eventually send other ships to investigate. We prefer to deal with someone who understands the real situation. Engineer Mi Young appeared in the doorway, her presence indicating that this conversation had been planned. She carried a small device that Veltar didn't recognize. Admiral, the Ambassador's ship has been fully repaired. We've also made some improvements to his communication systems. What kind of improvements? Veltar asked suspiciously. Mi Young smiled. Nothing harmful, I assure you. We've simply installed a quantum encryption system that will allow secure communication between your ship and ours. If your people choose diplomacy over warfare, we'll need reliable communication channels. And if they choose warfare? Then the same channels can be used for military coordination when the inevitable ceasefire comes, General Chanho replied matter-of-factly. Veltar stared at the human officers, slowly understanding the depth of their strategic thinking. They weren't just preparing for war or peace. They were preparing for the complex process of two civilizations learning to coexist as equals. You seem very confident that any war would end in ceasefire rather than victory for either side, he observed. Admiral, Dongho activated a wall display that showed the current state of galactic civilization. Hundreds of star systems belonging to dozens of species filled the three-dimensional map. Ambassador, the Concordat controls roughly 30% of known space. Humanity currently has a presence in another 15%, though most of that presence is hidden. But the remaining 55% belongs to other species who have been watching our negotiations very carefully. What does that mean? It means that a war between humanity and the Concordat would devastate both our civilizations, leaving us vulnerable to other powers who might decide to fill the resulting vacuum. Neither of us can afford to destroy the other. Veltar studied the galactic map, noting the locations of various alien civilizations that had remained neutral in Concordat expansion. Many were individually weaker than either humanity or the Concordat, but together they represented a formidable force. You're saying that galactic politics has become more complex than simple conquest and tribute? Exactly, General Chanho confirmed. The age of unopposed expansion by any single species is ending. The future will require cooperation between equals rather than domination by the strongest. Engineer Mi Young stepped forward with the communication device. Ambassador, this will allow you to contact us directly if your superiors have questions about human capabilities or intentions. Sometimes direct communication can prevent misunderstandings that lead to unnecessary conflicts. Veltar accepted the device, noting its sophisticated design. Even this simple gift demonstrated technological capabilities that exceeded many concordate systems. "There's something else you should know," Admiral Dongho said, his tone becoming more serious. "We've shared basic defensive technologies with several species who are being pressured by various galactic powers. Not weapons, but systems that can protect them from unwanted interference. You're arming potential enemies of the Concordate? We're ensuring that smaller civilizations have the ability to defend themselves. What they choose to do with that ability is up to them." Veltar realized that humanity had not just revealed themselves as a major power, they had fundamentally altered the balance of galactic civilization. Species that had been forced into tributary relationships now had alternatives. The Concordate's monopoly on advanced defensive technology was broken. "My people will not be pleased by these developments," he said finally. "Change is never easy," Admiral Dongho replied. "But it's often necessary. The Concordate can choose to lead this transition to a more cooperative galactic community, or they can fight against it and risk being left behind." What would cooperation look like? General Chanho pulled up a new display showing proposed trade routes and diplomatic arrangements, mutual defense agreements, technology sharing programs, joint exploration missions, cultural exchanges, all the things that equal civilizations do when they choose cooperation over conquest. And humanity would be willing to share its advanced technologies, selectively, and in exchange for similar cooperation from the Concordat. "We're not interested in giving away our military advantages, but civilian technologies that improve life. For all species?" "Absolutely." As Veltar prepared to return to his ship, he found himself facing a choice that would define not just his own future, but the future of galactic civilization. He could report humanity's true capabilities and recommend immediate military action. He could downplay the human threat and try to maintain the status quo. Or he could help broker a new relationship between civilizations that had the potential to benefit everyone. "Admiral," he said finally, "if I recommend peaceful cooperation to my superiors, what guarantee do I have that humanity will honor such agreements?" "The same guarantee the Concordate has always demanded from tributary species," Dongho replied. "Our word, backed by the understanding that mutual cooperation serves everyone's interests better than mutual destruction. And if some within the Concordate choose war despite my recommendations, then they will discover that humanity has learned patience as well as warfare. We have spent 40 years preparing for every possibility, Ambassador. We're prepared to wait 40 more if necessary for wisdom to prevail." As Veltar departed the human vessel, he carried with him not just a report on human capabilities, but a vision of a galaxy where strength meant cooperation rather than conquest.